Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Turin here, and today, guys, I'm here with another Total War Warhammer online commentary. In this battle, I'm going to be playing the Empire, and I'm going to be facing off against Bretonnia. I know there has been quite a bit of this on my channel lately, so hopefully you guys don't mind it, and let's get right down to the business. So I kind of experimented with a few builds with steam tanks and the Luminarch, but this is more of a wide build that's more infantry focused. So again, I don't really have any like big expensive units like a steam tank or the Luminarch, for example, and I decided to just go more infantry focused. So in the front line, I have a front line of swordsmen. So you can see there's a swordsman mixed in with great swords actually. So swordsman, greatsword, swordsman, greatsword, and I actually really like kind of a mix and matching of formations like this because again, anytime you're going into a game, you don't really know how your opponent's going to deploy their forces. So having kind of a mixed and varied formation like this is good because again, it accounts for, several different variables and gives you armor piercing on both sides of your flank as well as protection on your flanks. Because you don't want your greatswords, in my opinion, to be on the outside because if you have them here, they're vulnerable to cycle charging and things like that. And they're the more expensive unit. So I wanted to be protecting them. And, generally I like to put more expensive units on the center of the formation so they don't get clipped by cav charges and things like that. So anyways, that's my front line there. And I do have the Sigmar Sons on the outside. On both my wings, I have two groups of halberds who are going to be pretty good against Bretonnian cav. I mean, they have anti-large, they have armor piercing, and even against Bretonnian infantry, if you put halberds against foot squires, I'm pretty sure the foot squires will win in a straight up trade, but they'll put up a good fight with their armor piercing. They can actually get through the 70 armor of the foot squires. So I do have those, and guys, I actually decided to bring a warrior priest, and they look so cool. And something I never understood about this game is warrior priest, like, look how jacked he is in that armor. Like, that's some heavy duty armor, guys. And for some reason, he only has 30 armor if you look at him, which I always thought was a little bit odd. Like, in Warhammer in general, and pretty much any cinematic I've ever seen them in, they're like armored in head to toe. I don't know if it's similar in tabletop. You guys will have to let me know. On top of that, I do have a Jade Wizard with the Lore of Life. Again, pretty much a staple in competitive play. And in the back, I do have 3 groups of spears. So instead of having like a very expensive unit, I decided to go wider, and I actually prefer this probably. It's a little bit more safe, because again, if you get like your Luminarch sniped out or your more expensive unit isn't like quite as effective as you want it to be, you're going to lose out on a lot of resources. So in the back, I have the Todd, I got the Boris. So I finally played through the Beastmen campaign. I just power rushed it on easy and got the Todd. So he's ready to bring the Fury. And again, against Bretonnia, guys, you do not want to put him on a flying mount, because this will happen to you, King Lewin and Royal Pegasus Knights. On top of that, he does have his pet Demogryph Knights following him around, and the silver bullets. So that's pretty much it from our army. For my opponent's army, it's pretty much identical to the armies I like to bring, with one minor exception. So he has King Lewin Leoncoeur, definitely a fan of that. He has Royal Pegasus Knights, who are just one of my new favorite units that Bretonnia has. They're just so good. They have Living Saints, so they never get tired. They have heavy duty weapon strength with a huge anti-large bonus, and they're just a great unit all around, essentially, with over 100 speed. And he does have 2 paladins. So this is something I do a little differently. I don't like bringing paladins. So instead of bringing like a Grail Reliquae and maybe some battle programs, he actually opted to get 2 paladins. But other than that, the rest of his army is very, very traditional New Bretonnia. So he just has a whole front line of foot squires here, just going absolutely ham on the foot squire game. He has 3 peasant bowmen with fire arrows back here. He has some men at arms with pole arms in the back to defend against cav, which I like quite a bit, and a damsel with the Lore of Life. So everything looks pretty kosher over there. So without further ado, let's get right down to the business. So over here on the flanks, my opponent is coming around to kind of see what's going on. But guys, this is why I love the silver bullets. They do have stock. So my opponent doesn't know I have them. So he's actually going to, take a little bit of fire here for free. And the silver bullets are just such a good unit. So you can see I get some good fire on here. You can see King Lewin and the Pegasi take a little bit of damage. That's actually a good, 7 to 10% of their HP. And King Lewin, of course, will heal that. So I was obviously keeping the Demogryph Knights close by to kind of protect them and just continuing to pepper them with fire. So what's really annoying is when you're playing a faction and you don't have anything to like poke flying lords. Like even crossbows can't really deal with like Pegasus Knights very well because their arc of fire and the speed of the rounds doesn't really punish them. They can simply fly away. But with bullets, coming from the silver bullets or anything for that matter, it's really, really good at kind of fending off enemy lords. So you can see our Doom formations are advancing here, but he doesn't have as wide of an infantry line as me. So I'm going to be able to get some of my forces around the flank here. But still, I am taking some fire arrows here. But still, guys, they do have shields. And they are technically fodder units. So it's not the worst thing that could happen. So over here, you can see the charge is about to happen. He does get the paladins in here right now, and he's going to go pretty wild, but the greatswords are charging in against these guys, and it'll be an advantageous trade for me, assuming the Lore of Life goes off on both of our sides. So you can also see the warrior priest in here just being so cool, and I love how their hammers glow, but I really wish they had more armor. It just doesn't make sense to me. But he's in here fighting, and he's also going to provide damage resistance to these nearby troops when that ability does come off cooldown. So over here, there's some foot squires fighting as well, and they're kind of engaged with some spears and some swordsmen and some greatswords. So the greatswords aren't really isolated, and I do have a lot of fodder units to kind of help out against them. So my opponent, seeing that his flank has been compromised, does bring in King Lewin, and King Louis is going to get in there and just go absolutely wild on these Sigmar Sons. But if any unit is going to take a charge of my faction, I'm really going to want it to be Sigmar's Sons, and you can see they're like organs coming out. Just absolute slaughter here, these Pegasus Knights coming in, but it's really not as bad as it looks. They're down to 87 models, so I really only lost a few models. And guys, now the halberds are going to get in, and these Pegasus Knights are kind of congested. They're getting poked by halberds, and they're going to start taking huge damage. You can see they've already taken pretty big bursts. So over here on the far side, as he did really commit to this engagement, I do retaliate with the Demogryph Knights. So you can see Lore of Life going off on both sides of the main infantry corps, and his missiles doing pretty good. But my demis come in here pretty hot, and you can see they're just riding through these peasants. Oh, look at that awesome animation of him getting up on his hind legs there. But I come through and I essentially shut down his back missile line. You can see the Todd is a little bit slow to the party, but man, I love the way the Todd looks with those epic feathers and his power mustache. So he's getting in there. He's charging on these peasant bowmen with the fire arrows. But the fire arrows did a really good job. So very well played by my opponent in shutting down the silver bullets back there. So I did pull them back. They hadn't broken yet, and I did have a group of spears and auxiliary. So in the back line, my halberds and my spears are able to kind of trap up these Pegasus Knights and bringing them down to 15 models, but King Lewin's doing a pretty good job. But honestly, Sigmar's Sons are like a unit you want to take a beating. Like, they're not going to break. They'll keep fighting to the death, so I really don't mind if my opponent targets them. And over here, my Demogryph Knights, I would say this trade came out just far ahead for me, so I'm able to just get into his back line. You can see the Demogryph Knights are just slaying these filthy peasants, and he does get an Earthblood back here, and it was hitting all of these troops, but it also does catch these peasants, but you can see they're starting to break right now, which is good. And I do have his Damsel isolated, so you can see the Todd is just going ham in here. He's just kind of whacking her, chasing her off the battlefield. You can see she's just getting run over by Demogryph Knights, and losing Lore of Life early in this battle like this is going to just be devastating to my opponent. So in the front line, it's actually not as bad as, you know, it usually goes against Bretonnia. You can see this Warrior Priest is really helping lead the troops. He's in here hammering these guys, doing a very, very good job. And the Earthblood in here is keeping my swordsmen as well as my greatswords fighting. And it's a pretty even trade. You can see his foot squires are taking a beating. They're shaken. And again, with that leadership nerf they got, it's not a bad situation anymore. I mean, granted, foot squires I still think are a little powerful. Still, the greatswords are really holding their own. And they've racked up 57 kills here against 13 and 26 of these foot squires. So this Warrior Priest definitely making a big, big difference in the front line. And he is just so freaking cool. Over here on the far side, it's going a little bit better for my opponent, but I do have some spears and some greatswords and some swords, and you can see the paladins are fighting, but they're actually getting worn down. Over here, I did get my silver bullets around the flank, and they're getting some great shots on King Louis, but unfortunately for these guys, King Louis is going to come in here pretty hard, and he's just going to run these guys through. So you can see they're going to go flying, and my Jade Wizard is just like, fuck this shit, I'm out of here. He's just going to turn and run away here. So, but King Louis is coming for that sweet Jade Wizard, and these guys are going to turn around and start shooting at him. So pretty wild little engagement back here. But the Demogryph Knights are able to just absolutely just mangle this damsel. You can see they're just chasing her down, and what I should have done is sent Boris after the damsel. He would have been a little better on a single target, and then send the Jade Wizard to, the Demogryph Knights to deal with these bows back here. So a little bit of a tactical mistake, but it could be much worse. So right now I do pull the Boris back to the front line because these paladins in here were still fighting, relatively efficiently, and I knew over the course of a long battle they might turn the tide, and the balance of power is still very even. So my troop count is 538 to my opponent's 446, I believe. So very, very close fight, but thankfully guys were able to get rid of the damsel, and I still have my caster if I'm not mistaken. Let's go ahead and take a look. So he might have routed off. I think Lewin might have actually killed him when I wasn't looking. So my silver bullets are continuing to scurry around. And what I ended up doing is pulling a group of spears to kind of protect them because they're pretty close to the battle. And it's really annoying when you're playing King Lewin when he does that big swirling attack animation because it actually like stops him in his tracks and you're able to kind of create distance. So my spears come back, but he does unfortunately take off in the air. You can see my Warrior Priest over here dropping the bombs, and I'm able to crack the center of the Bretonnian formation. And you can see the greatswords charging in for Sigmar, going to get a great flank on these guys, and are definitely going to crush them and break their leadership. And the greatswords are very, very cool looking units. Look at these guys. So they're actually laying a smackdown. You can see this guy gets his terrible haircut kind of cut off here, and of course King Lewin over there continuing to do as much work as he can in the back line, but it looks like the Paladin is even being worn down through the attrition in the frontline battle. So if we look in the back, my Demogryph Knights actually do get engaged by the remnants of these Royal Pegasus Knights over here, so a very, very close fight, and he's also getting the support of these Peasant Bowmen. Though they have very low AP on the fire arrows, they're still doing a little bit, and I'm able to actually break those guys, which was nice. And you can see, thankfully for me, his Damsel did shatter, so we're actually both without healing right now, but thankfully the Todd does indeed have self-healing. So let's go ahead and see where he is right now. I can't quite see him. So if we take an overhead look of things, he has some tattered troops back here, but I do have some swordsmen, which honestly should be able to push back like all of these troops. And my front line's pretty strong. He does have a pocket of foot squires here, but the Demogryph Knights do charge in, and they're going to actually go fisticuffs, and they do have very heavy AP. And so I decided to pull them back, let the greatswords kind of charge in there and do their fighting. They'll be able to saturate a little bit, but King Lewin does come in the back and gets a nice rear charge and actually takes out that Demogryph Knight. It looks like he killed two of them. but I do get a great charge, and you can see the Todd coming in hot. He's definitely pissed off. He gets in there. He's eager. He's in pretty good shape. He still has all of his health and is probably nowhere near his healing cap, and he does get some spears coming in to support as well. So King Lewin is down to about 60% HP. I do have this warrior priest in here still fighting, providing that constant 22% damage resistance, and some of the foot squires are still in here, and they are led by a paladin, but for the most part, like, they're going to get fended off by these greatswords, because the greatswords are in really good shape. But man, that paladin's been putting up some work. And he actually has 68 kills, which isn't terrible. Personally, I would have liked to see him cut a paladin and bring like a Grail Relique and maybe some like more fodder units, but unfortunately King Louis does go after my warrior priest and terrifies him. He didn't actually break him, but he terrifies him. So, but King Lewin on that same note took a lot of damage. He's also taking fire from the remnants of the silver bullets over here. And you can see the Todd chasing after him, and the warrior priest does pop that damage resistance to help out in this main fight over here, but it looks like they're out of the area of effect now that I ran him away. So over here, you can see the paladin is wavering. A lot of his troops are starting to break. Also over here, you can see that I do have some of these swordsmen in here continuing to do some good work against these peasants. Definitely a pretty rough situation for these guys, although it looks like they do have some machetes, so it's not as bad as like the peasants with like the pitchforks and stuff, but obviously the swordsmen are going to make pretty short work of them. And swordsmen, what do they have? 28 weapon strength, 32 melee defense, and 32 melee attack, so those stats really aren't bad. A lot of people don't think about bringing them against Bretonnia because they assume they don't have heavy armor piercing, so foot squires will slay them, but as a fodder unit with their melee defense, they can actually last pretty long. So over here, King Lewin is continuing to fly around and just go after my goodies, and unfortunately he's going to come in here, and it looks like he's going to get a great charge on the warrior priest, and unfortunately this guy's going to have to go join Sigmar in the afterlife most likely. So he has about 400 HP left, but King Lewin is a little bit more mobile than Boris, and he's able to kind of outmaneuver him, and man, that guy just gets slayed. But on that same note, he does take a lot of fire from the silver bullets, and Boris is hot on his 6, but every time he takes off up in the air, he's continuing to take quite a bit of fire, and he is pretty close to his healing cap, and I just have a huge force left here. I still have some Demogryph Knights, I have spears, I have great swords, I have just all kinds of stuff. And King Louis is going to charge in and do a little bit of work. But honestly, he's going to start suffering from army losses here, and is just going to get taken down by these halberds and these spearmen and these other guys, so it's going to be a pretty tough day, but he is going after those guys. And I'm telling you, that animation is like the worst King Lewin animation when he goes up like that, because it just like lets him get shot and attacked, and it definitely is just a little bit disadvantageous for him. So he is taking some missile fire over here. He's at about 500 HP. If we look in the back line, my opponent has like some wavering troops left, but for the most part, it looks like that is all she wrote. So very, very well played to my opponent. It was a super fun battle, and I've really been enjoying the Empire versus Bretonnia. It's just super fun. And swordsmen were great, though. I mean, 105 kills, 35 kills, 19. Even 19 isn't terrible for how cheap they are against, like, foot squires. And granted, they did get back into some of the peasant bowmen and stuff, but still really not bad. The halberds did a good job of catching the Pegasus Knights. Great swords put up a great fight in that front line. Although, his foot squires did get 107 kills, so it's not completely one-sided. But regardless, both of us had Lore of Life, and I actually really liked the warrior priest. I felt like he gave me much more of a presence in the front line. The bombardment was okay, but again, the 22% damage to this, can't complain about that. So anyways, really well played to my opponent, Holy. Look forward to seeing you again on Ladder, and I hope you guys enjoyed that Empire cast. Have an excellent night, and take care.